Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Apple ImageWriter II dot matrix printer from 1986, as well as looking at the software needed to get it up and running on a modern Windows 10 64-bit computer. Alright, so on the software side of things, we need, number one, a driver for the ImageWriter II, but we also need to make a couple of modifications to that driver because it is buggy, actually. The only 64-bit version of this driver that exists for Windows was included on XP64 as well as Windows Server 2003. So I have a 64-bit version of XP here that I've downloaded and have extracted the files out of the ISO with 7-zip. And in this folder structure, we need to look for ntprint.inf, which is the driver file that basically gives a list of all the different printer drivers that are available to Windows. And it's different for every version of Windows, which is why we need the Windows XP64 version to load up on a newer version of Windows. We can't just use the one that's built into Windows 10 here. I have not tested this on Windows 11 or any other version of Windows, but I would assume that it is similar, at least for Windows 8, 8.1, 7, stuff like that. Windows 11, not entirely sure because I've never used it. Anyway, we don't need to be in here. We can go into the Add Printer dialog for Windows. So we go to Printers and Scanners, add a printer, and we'll wait because it will not auto-detect it, obviously. Go to the printer that I want isn't listed, and then we're going to add a local printer with manual settings. It is on COM1. I have a hardware serial port on this computer. Otherwise, you can use a USB to serial adapter. I've used one successfully. There's not like a voltage problem or anything because this printer probably uses more than plus minus 5 volt logic levels. Anyway, COM1 next, and now we are going to load up ntprint.inf for Windows XP64 because currently it is loaded up ntprint.inf for this version of Windows 10. So in order to load up the XP version, we are going to go to Have Disk, Browse, and it's already been loaded up, but we'll navigate to it. So it's on my desktop. Go into the extracted files from the ISO, AMD64, and then in here we will find ntprint.inf. Open. OK. And then it will load up all of the available 64-bit drivers to XP64. And you would think it's an Apple, but it's not. Apple did not release a 64-bit driver for this computer because I believe they stopped selling it in 1993 or 1996. Those are the two numbers that are sticking in my head. Anyhow, there are two potential drivers that can work for this, at least two on this list. Doesn't matter which one you load up because it uses the exact same files. Traditionally, everyone uses one from CITO. The CITO 8510 is what will be loaded. Additionally, if you wanted to, you could use the AT&T 470, 475. It loads up the exact same file, so it doesn't really matter. And we're going to be changing the name of it in Windows later anyway, so it's going to show up as ImageWriter 2 instead of CITO 8510. So select this, click Next. It's going to install the printer name. We're going to rename it to Apple ImageWriter 2. Next. And it installs. Not going to share it right now. And we're not going to print a test page because, as I said before, this driver that was included with XP64 is, in fact, buggy. We need to make a couple modifications to a driver file in order to get things to print correctly. So we're going to close out of this, and we are going to navigate to the driver files. So when you install this driver, it goes into Windows, System 32, Spool, Drivers, x64, 3, and in here are where the driver files are located for the CITO8510 printer. And the file that we need to edit is ci8510.gpd. So if we open this thing up, it looks very similar to the version, it might even be exactly the same as the version included with a 32-bit driver, which does not have bugs and does in fact work correctly with 32-bit Windows operating systems. So this is the unmodified version of this file. I have a version that has already been modified, pulled up right here, ci8510.gpd. So we're going to open this up, and I'll walk you through what changes needed to be made to this file so that you can go in and change them on your own. First of all, the maximum resolution for this printer is limited out of the box by the driver that is used. It is capable of printing 144 dpi. We are going to change dpi right here is our first parameter to change. So change it to 144 by 144 instead of 96 by 72. Text DPI is going to be exactly the same. Pins per log pass, which stands for pins per logical pass, and we double this because it enables a feature in the printer to alternate between advancing by one line and 1/144th of a line at a time. So basically, you double the density of the dots that you're printing by printing 2 passes and offsetting them by 1 dot at a time. So you basically double the resolution, but you just need to print 2 passes each time. Pins per physical pass can stay the same because there are only 8 pins that are used for printing in graphics mode on this printer. There are, I believe, 9 pins on the printhead, but only 8 are used. Command, we need to change the command that is sent to the printer so that it sets it up for 144 dpi horizontally rather than 96 dpi horizontally. So if it's in brackets, this command, 1b is an escape code, and if it's a hex number, which 1b is, it will be in brackets. Otherwise, the letter indicates what byte is being sent to the printer. So instead of E over here, which sets it to 96 dpi, we're going to change it to a lowercase p, which sets it at 144 dpi. Command start doc, again, we need to change a code here. As I said before, these are 2 escape codes. That is 1 byte. I forget exactly what it means, but if you look it up in the service manual for the ImageWriter II, it'll tell you what exactly that means. Another escape code, and then a lowercase p, again, to change it to 144 dpi for the document setup. Then our next order of business is the most important one, actually, which is right down here, mirror raster byte. This is not included in the original version of ci8510.gpd, but we need to include it. In the 32-bit version of this driver, it is not included because it prints correctly. However, in the 64-bit version, we need it. And I discovered this by installing this driver and trying to print things with this printer initially. And what happened was that when Windows rasterizes whatever it's printing and sends it to the printer, it does so 1 vertical line at a time. So as the printhead moves from left to right across the page, it will print vertical rows of dots in a continuing order. And when Windows sends data to the printer, it, because it has 8 pins, sends 1 byte of data for each vertical line in each horizontal pass. When it sends this byte, with the 64-bit version of the driver, the bit order is reversed from what it should be. So each document or picture or whatever that you send to the printer will almost print correctly. However, each line will be upside down, so it'll almost look right. It won't be just completely random data, but it will still look very incorrect and be somewhat unreadable. We correct this with mirror raster byte. It flips the order of every byte that is sent to the printer that is not a escape code or command byte or something like that. And that, in turn, flips each line that the printer prints upside down so it prints correctly. So, once you've made those changes, again, simplified, mirror raster byte equals, or not equals, colon, true. You need to change command start doc, command, you need to change this from a uppercase E in the command bit to a lowercase p to switch it to 144 dpi. And then additionally, you need to change pins per logical pass to 16 so that it prints 144 vertical DPI. And then you need to change text DPI and DPI to 144, 144. And then it doesn't really matter, but just for the sake of visibility in the operating system and in the software that you use, change the name to 144 by 144 dots per inch. Alright, so once you've made those changes to that file, you can simply, if you go back into the printer page in settings and you print a test page, make sure printer is turned on.
Voila!